Welcome friends to the lecture 12 of our course on international business. So, let me start the lecture today with the current situation that is prevailing in India. So, this condition that we are going through in India is the Indian economy is in a slightly tough condition, right. So, we all are aware of it, that the growth is not happening as desired and things have slowed down, right. So, what it says is the gross domestic product grew 5% in the first quarter of financial year 20. The data, as per the data released by the government, marking the slowest growth since the fourth quarter of financial year 13, right. So, there is a long time. So, the GDP growth was 8% in the year earlier quarter and 5.8% in the preceding one. So, this 5% growth is somewhere a scary figure, right. So, we are scared that the economy is not going the way it should be. The consumption, which is the bedrock or the major factor behind the growth of the economy, or has collapsed to an 18 quarter low of 3.1% from 10.6% in the March quarter, pointing to a fragile sentiment. That means, the consumers are not very happy, they are scared. The slowdown in investment and consumer demand derailed the manufacturing, which grew just 0.6%, right. A meager 2% rise in farm sector added to the demand slowdown. So, if you can see, these numbers are very dangerous, right. Looking at this is what I have brought from the Economic Times. So, you can look at it, that this 5% is the concern that we have, okay. And if you look at the the last year's average complete full year's growth GDP was 6.8%, but we are worried if this is the way we have started with 5%, then we might end up very low, and then it could be disastrous, okay. The 8% nominal GDP is the growth is lowest since financial year 2002-3, that means around 16-17 years back, right. That means, we are really having a slump, okay. 3.1% private consumption rise is the worst in the 18 quarters. So, I am not trying to discourage or create a negative impact, but this is the truth. Sector wise growth also, if you see, for example, look at manufacturing, it is 0.6% only, which is almost negligible. In comparison, it was 12.1% during the same time in the financial year 19. If you look at agriculture, which is one of the largest employers, it is 2.2% growth, right. Again a dismal figure, whereas the government has been thinking of doubling the farmers' income, right, and creating more employment through through agriculture, forestry and fishing. But on the other side, we are finding a growth of only 2%, which is quite dangerous. Other things also, if you see mining, quarrying, only 2.7% growth, and last year it was 0.4. So, although it seems a positive, slight positive, but that it is not actually positive, it is only a 2.7% growth over this. So, overall that means, if you see, none of the industries are doing well, right. So, only thing we can be happy in maybe a few, for example, which is substantially still okay, is utilities, and defense, where the government is spending largely and they are doing well, right. What lies ahead? What are the worry lines and what are the what lies ahead? Further rate cuts, sentiments boosters needed, right. The government has to interfere. The finance minister's stimulus package may propel the demand, but before that we should look at the worry lines. Sharp slowdown in the private consumption. There was a article where it said Parle is going to cut down 10,000 jobs, because even people are not ready to buy a pack of biscuits worth 5 rupees. So, that shows how consumer psychology is down. Low domestic growth, global demand, low domestic and global demand. Negligible growth in manufacturing, right. So, the gross value added is negligible. Government spending is the key driver, and we hope the government does something which will rebound, we will help the industry to bounce back. Okay. So, what are the measures? As one of the measures the finance minister has been taking. Now, the finance minister has and the think tank has been thinking seriously on this, and they have started some measures. For example, a 10,000 crore window, which is actually 10,000 from the government plus 10,000 from the private, makes it 20,000 actually, is equal to 20,000, right, to fund the incomplete housing projects, right, because the real estate sector has been in in a very bad condition for last many years now. The RBI has cut the interest rates 4 times, right, since January to 5.4% by to August, right, to help the to help boost the loan growth, right, so that people take more loans at a lower interest rate, and thus maybe production will increase. The government has announced a slew of measures in 3 dosages, which include a special window for real estate, export incentives, bank consolidation, and you must have heard of the major banks being merged together, and SOAPs for micro, small and medium enterprises and the automobile sector, which is a key sector, right. So, if the right measures are taken, then I am sure the economy will do well, but if something is not done correctly, if something happens, then we can see a difficult time, right. So, you can see always the stock market is a mirror to which reflects the sentiments of the market, and you can see the stock market bleeding very badly, okay, at the moment. So, in such a time, as it says here, if you can see, further rate sentiment boosters are needed. So, we will talk about a topic today which is very important, which is called the multiplier effect. So, what is this multiplier effect? Let us start with it. Investment multiplier is the ratio of change in equilibrium income and change in investment that causes it, right. So, what change happens when an investment is done? So, what is the change in income when investment is done by the government or maybe some private investment comes in? Samuelson, the Nobel laureate, says multiplier is the number by which the change in investment must be multiplied. This is a number which should be multiplied with the change in the investment. So, what is the change in investment in the last year to this year? In order to determine the resulting changes in total income, that means it says income changes when there is a change in the investment. Okay. So, this investment change when multiplied with some number, let us say with some number, magic number, then this number will help you to find out the change in the total income, right. This concept of multiplier, so you can understand what is a multiplier. Multiplier is to multiply something, so it multiplies. So, when the government invests in some sector or in the totality in the growth of the nation, so or anybody, for example, let us say, then what happens is, because of the investment, the wages, the salaries, the income of people will grow, and as a result of it, this consumption will grow, and as a result of the increase in consumption, production will grow, right. So, automatically there will be demand. So, this change in effect due to the change in income as a result of the investment of the government or anybody is called the multiplier effect. The concept of multiplier was first said by the famous economist R.F. Kahan in an article titled "The Relation of Home Investment to Unemployment." So, in 1931, where he talked about for the first time the employment multiplier, right. John Maynard Keynes was the one who talked about where he introduced the concept, where he talked about the government's intervention to boost up the economy, and he says he emphasized on the significance and utility of public investment, right, government, which refers to government expenditure on public works and public welfare activities. The purpose of this investment is not to earn profit, right, as is the case with private investment. It is called autonomous investment, because there is no private profit intention behind for the government, because it is independent of profit motive, but to increase employment and stimulate the business during acute cases of depression. There may be depression, there may not be. If you anticipate there is a depression going to come or a recession going to come, the government should do this, right. So, what is it saying? So, multiplier is equal to change in income divided by the change in initial investment. So, multiplier M is equal to change in income delta I divided by the change in the initial investment. So, let me say investment, right. So, income by investment. So, that means what? The change in investment into the multiplier is nothing but the change in income. Okay. Now, look at this example. Let us say the government finds that there is a slowdown in the economy and the government makes an investment of $3 billion, okay, for certain work, for example, development work, road work, anything could be. So, what happens in the first year? The workers receive more income, right. So, there is an increase in 2 billion income. The suppliers receive new orders worth of 1 billion. So, this 3 billion increase in GDP, you see, so there is a 3 billion income the government has put in and it has been split. What happens in the next year? Now, there is an increase in demand, the shops and pubs see there is an increase in demand of 0.5 billion. Increased demand of transportation and utilities is of 0.2 billion and suppliers employ more workers and pay around 0.3 billion. So, there is an addition 1 billion that comes in. So, what happened here? You see, the initial injection by the government was 3 billion, final increase right is 4 billion. So, what is the multiplier effect? The multiplier effect is 4 upon 3, the change, right. So, this is the 1.33, the multiplier effect is 1.33. So, government, what it basically says is that when there is an investment from the government, it does not have one direct effect, but it has a chain of effects. So, that is why it is called a multiplier effect, right. So, as the demand will grow, the consumption will grow, people will have more consumption, will have more demand for new products. So, the production will grow, people will they will earn better and everybody will have a positive advantage. What is the size of the multiplier? The size of the multiplier depends on the value of the marginal propensity to consume or marginal propensity to save. So, this is marginal propensity to consume, this is the marginal propensity to save, right. So, the multiplier size depends on this consumption propensity or the saving propensity. Propensity is the habit of the people, right. So, the larger the marginal propensity to consume, the larger is the multiplier. I will show you the relationship, right. And what it says, the larger the marginal propensity to save, the smaller the multiplier. That means, in simple terms, if I understand, if people consume more, they say the US is a consumer driven economy, right, a consumption economy, sorry, consumption economy or consumer driven economy, right. So, because it is a consumption driven economy, that is why the US does much better on its investments than the rest of the other countries. Whereas, if you see most of the developing or underdeveloped countries, they have a large propensity to save because they have a fear of the future. They do not have insurance, they do not have safety measures. So, they are always afraid of their future. So, they would like to save more and more, and saving itself, what happens is the money does not circulate, and as the money does not circulate, so there is no growth in demand. There is no growth in production. So, when there is no consumption, there will be no production obviously. So, as a result of it, the multiplier effects becomes very small, right. So, let us see what is this marginal propensity to save. Let us define, understand it. So, it refers to the increase in the proportion of saving, which is saving is equal to income minus the consumption, right. So, refers to the increase in the saving, right, as a result of the increase in the level of income. So, when income grows, when income is growing, what happens to the saving? So, is saving growing or consumption growing? What is happening? It can be defined as the ratio of change in saving to change in income, right. So, what it says symbolically, MPS, marginal propensity to save, is equal to the change in saving divided by the change in income. So, Y is the change in income, right, and change in saving. Now, let us see, an income rises from rupees 50,000 to rupees 60,000. saving increases from rupees 10,000 to rupees 18,000. In this case, what is the MPS? Find out. So, what it says? Change in saving, if you look at it, change in saving by change in income. So, change in saving is how much here? Change in saving is 8,000, right? Change in income is 10,000, right. So, what is the ratio? So, this is the one, right. Similarly, there are other questions you might answer. Assume that the consumption spending is 16,000. For every rupees 200 increase in disposable income, saving goes up by rupees 20. Which of the following statements is true? Try to answer it, right. Then we come to the marginal propensity to consume. MPC is the increase in consumer spending due to an increase in income. So, when income is growing, either a person will tend to save it or he will tend to consume it. So, if he makes more consumption, then what happens, right. This is expressed as delta C by delta Y, that means change in consumption divided by the change in income, right. MPC is the reverse or the inverse of the marginal propensity to save, right. So, it is either if you save you cannot consume, if you consume you cannot save, as good as that. For example, if a person earns 1000 extra and spends 550, so the marginal propensity to consume will be 550 divided by 1000, which is 0.55. Okay. This ranges between 0 to 1, okay, because it cannot go beyond the income. You will, it is understood, this is an assumption of the assumption that you can always lie within the up to the income you can reach. So, maximum, right. So, the numerator and denominator will be only same, it cannot, the numerator cannot be more than the denominator. Okay. If a person's entire increase in income is consumed, then the change in consumption will be equal to the income, change in income, making MPC is equal to 1. So, you can understand change in consumption is saying if everything is consumed, that means whatever income you had you consumed everything. So, income and consumption is same. So, the value becomes 1, right. If the entire income is saved and nothing is consumed, then it is 0. So, MPC becomes 0, right. If you save everything, you do not consume anything, then it is again a hypothetical situation which is 0, right. So, 0 and 1 actually are hypothetical situations. Mr. Rajesh receives 10,000 bonus apart from his annual salary. Now, he has an extra income of 10,000 to spend that he did not before. So, you get bonus during Diwali, some incentives, suppose example, right. Suppose that the individual decides to spend 8,500 of this 10,000 on a vacation and remaining amount will be saved for future purposes. Find the marginal propensity to consume and the marginal propensity to save. What will be the MPC if the individual saves the entire 10,000, if the individual spends the entire 10,000, right. So, look at this. So, what is saying marginal propensity is change in consumption by change in income, saving is change in saving by change in income. So, propensity to consume, marginal propensity to consume MPS will be 8,500, right, look at it. So, 8,500 he is spending on 10,000, so which is equal to 0.85. What is the saving? Obviously 1,500, the remaining, so 0.15. If the individual saves the entire 10,000, the MPC will be, he is not consuming anything, so it is 0 by 10,000. If the individual spends the entire 10,000, then MPC will be 1. So, this is the condition, right. So, this is a case you can complete this table, this data you can see. So, what is happening? So, this is income, this is consumption expenditure, right. So, how much is the saving this time? 100. So, first year we are not giving any saving and consumption, we do not have the data, right. From next year onwards you can count it, you can do that. So, try to fill up this figure and find out the answer, right. Okay. There is one more term, the marginal propensity to import. What it is saying? The marginal propensity to import is the amount of import increase or decrease with each unit rise or fall in the disposable income. So, what it is saying? The amount of import increases or decreases, import means to get the raw materials from outside, with each unit or rise or fall in the disposable income, that extra income that I have, right. What is disposable income? Is the net income available to invest, save or spend after my taxes, income taxes, calculated by subtracting income taxes from income. Okay. It is a change in imports induced by change in income. So, delta I imports by delta income, right. Okay. There are two types of multipliers, as I said, one was given by Kahan, which was said as the employment multiplier. The other was given by Keynes, John Maynard Keynes, and he said foreign trade multiplier, right. So, he did not exactly say about it, but then what is this? Let us see. The employment multiplier is the ratio of increase in total employment. What is saying? The ratio of increase in total employment. So, change in employment, right, to the increase in primary or original employment, to the total employment, right. So, change in employment to the over total employment. Similarly, there is one more term called the foreign trade multiplier. Now, what is this foreign trade multiplier? The ratio of change in total income to the change in the export income, right. So, total income, change in the total income, change, only the change divided by the change in the export income is called the foreign trade multiplier. So, let us see. First, let us understand some of the characteristics of the multiplier. So, what it says? It is dependent on the aggregate demand. Now, aggregate demand is the total demand or the requirement or the demand for services or products, goods is called the aggregate demand. So, that is the investment and consumption cause the multiplier effect. Economists generally associate multiplier with change in investment. However, change in consumption or government expenditure or exports can have the similar effect. Another multiplier effect is that it works both forward and backward. Suppose there is a cut in the spending, so there could be a backward effect. Okay. There is an inverse relationship between marginal propensity to save and the size of the multiplier, right. Size of the multiplier depends upon the size of marginal propensity to consume, right. Higher the consumption, greater will be the size of the multiplier. Okay. The size of the multiplier is reduced proportionate to the leakages in the current income flow, right. So, what are the leakages? What are the points where there are leakages, right, that also has an effect on the size of the multiplier. Multiplier effect can operate continuously only if there are continuous and autonomous changes in expenditure in the economy. So, there has to be a it cannot be a static model. There are two models, static and dynamic. So, earlier in fact, the criticism for Keynes is that Keynes had given a static model, but today's economists are talking about that the multiplier effect is built on a dynamic model. It is constantly changing. You cannot predict anything on a linearly, right. So, they are saying it is a dynamic effect. What is the importance? First of all, let us talk about the importance of the multiplier. The concept of multiplier tells us that income propagation means spread, is a natural process, right. It tells that increase in employment, income and output is due to the increase in investment. Okay. Importance of investment second, it is the initial increase in the investment that results in multiple increase in income, as I said, right. The workers will get more money, if they get more money they will spend more, right. If they spend more there will be more production, right. As a matter of fact, investment is that dynamic element on which changes in employment depend. Trade cycles, these are those cycles which tell business fluctuations take place over a period of long run. Trade cycles do not happen in a very short period of time, they take time because there are lots of elements involved. So, it takes its own time, right. So, the market tends to resist any change. So, but when it changes, so it takes sufficient time to make those visible changes. Sometimes there is a boom and another time there is a depression in the business. So, multiplier helps in understanding these trade cycles, right. Full employment. Multiplier's concept is of great importance while formulating policy regarding full employment. It shows that to attain full employment situation, net investment should be increased and thus you can generate investment. you can see some of the cases in even US when General Motors, Ford and Chrysler were going through a very bankruptcy condition, the government saved them from bankruptcy by injecting a lot of revenue into it, right. Another point is deficit financing. Now, deficit financing sometimes that means what? It as you can understand, there is a deficit financing by taking loans or something, you are on a deficit, right. It helps in removing the bad effects. So, sometimes the criticism is there, the deficit financing is good or bad. So, but it sometimes has a positive effect, because as a result of the deficit financing, investment increases, the increase in investment causes multiple increase in income in terms of the multiplier effect. So, what you have invested through deficit financing did not be equal to the growth. So, the growth is much more. So, on a net if you see finally the growth is more than the investment. So, finally, you are making some profits over the deficit financing. Equilibrium between saving and investment. Now, Keynes theory of employment equilibrium is established when saving and investment are equal. Saving is equal to the investment. Equilibrium between saving and investment can be achieved through change in the level of income. If saving is low, it can be known from the concept of marginal propensity to save how much increase in income is needed to get the required increase in saving. So, it helps you to understand the equilibrium between saving and income, and to let us say to understand the concept of marginal propensity to save, you need to understand the increase in income, how much increase in income is needed to get the required increase in saving, and to increase the level of income, how much investment is needed, that can also be determined. Another importance of multiplier is, so multiplier helps you to think how much of saving is required for every individual in a country, because every country is different. How much of consumption should be done, all these factors, right. How much income should be there so that people can spend. Concept of multiplier testifies that if during depression a little increase in public investment is made, it will lead to multiple income increase and will help in controlling the depression and unemployment. This is the basic idea which is talked for multiplier effects. Now, let us come first to the types of multiplier. The first one, the employment multiplier given by Kahn, where R.F. Kahn says that increase in investment will cause an increase in employment. So, if you invest if you increase the investment, employment will grow, right. In those very industries wherein such investment has been made, but in other industries also. So, he says not only in the directly in the industries where you have made the investment, but in the other industries also which are connected to it. For example, let us say if we invest in a production in a plant. So, if the plant grows, obviously there would be more of buyers, suppliers coming to that local place to buy those first product inventory. So, to stay they would need hotels, lodges, motels, so and maybe other items. So, automatically the secondary businesses are also getting benefited, right. The service industries largely, for example. So, it creates primary employment, it creates secondary employment. So, how does it show? Now, K1, which is the employment multiplier, is equal to total employment, right, N2 divided by the primary employment. So, what is the total employment divided by the primary employment, right. So, this is what is says is the right employment multiplier. Okay. Next, today maybe we will wind up here, just I will explain what is the foreign trade multiplier. Here it says that it is the amount by which the national income of a country will be raised by a unit increase in domestic investment on exports, okay. Also known as the export multiplier. What is saying? Foreign trade multiplier or known as export multiplier is the amount by which the national income of a country will be raised when there is a unit increase in the domestic investment. So, if I invest more, what is the change in the exports, how much increase in exports is happening, right. This was given by Letton, right, but large work has been done by Keynes on this also. The foreign trade multiplier is based on the following assumptions. So, these are some of the assumptions what is says. there is full employment, which might not be correct. There is a direct link between domestic and foreign country in exporting and importing goods. So, there is a direct link. So, there may be a free movement. It is based on a fixed exchange rate system, but that is not true, right. Most of the time we are on a flexible exchange rate system. There are no tariff barriers and exchange controls, which is highly untrue, right. So, there are some other tariff barriers. So, obviously, the motive behind the behind globalization is to remove the tariff barriers, but still now it is not possible, it is not done, right. The government expenditure is constant, that is also not true, but still these are some of the assumptions that we have to take, right. What I will do is I will carry on for this multiplier effect in the next lecture, because there is a lot to be discussed. I hope today you have understood what is this multiplier effect in simple terms. Sometimes there is a criticism for multiplier effect also, because they say it makes the same statement again and again, there is a criticism for that, right. So, basically if I understand, the more we invest in times of at least bad times or during depression or recessions, the investment will lead to higher spurt in growth in the industries, which will increase in the income of the people, and thus will affect the consumption of the people, consumption patterns, and thus the overall economy will grow, right. But if there is more of saving and very less of consumption, it is also dangerous, right. If there is too much of consumption, and then we say then there is a chance that there will be high demand for the products, right. So, this condition will differ from country to one country as per the policies of the government, where in some countries the government gives lot of free education, free insurance, free policies for and even there is a for unemployed people also there is some fixed income. So, such countries the kind of saving and consumption differs to a country, for example, like India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, around these Asian countries, in which there is a serious fear about the future. So, if we understand this, the government can even take action in putting in its productive money into such sectors, development of such sectors, so that people will not try to save the income and they would like to consume, because if consumption happens, then only the demand will grow. So, if government can take up the security of the people, then automatically demand for the products will rise and economy will do better, there is no doubt about it, right. But we will talk about it in the next class. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. Thank you very much.